Bow to the Lord of the kick and the bass. Hey, it's Will from EDM Tips. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to produce techno music in the style of Adam Beyer. Obviously, you can use this to produce techno in your own style, but you're going to learn loads of techniques throughout this whole video, some that I haven't shared anywhere else before. And don't forget, you can download all of the project files, presets, samples, and whatnot completely free below this video. We will be covering that rolling techno kick and bass. We will go into those techno chord textures, and we're going to be using some vocals as well. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for tutorials like this each and every week, and without further ado, let's hop into the door and get it done. If you've noticed, I am actually floating today. That's technically magic. Technically magic. Oh my god. Okay, first thing, techno tempo, 126, Adam Beyer style. Then we're going to save it. What should we call it today? Let's call it Technopolis, like, you know, a city that's just full to the absolute brim of techno. First thing we're going to do, kick. Right, let's just color that green. You can do it in audio or MIDI, but I'm going to do it audio today. Pick a nice meaty kick, and then we're going to process this, make it even beefier, and we're going to get a rumble bass line from this as well. So boom, 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 lovely jubbly. Techno, I'm going to turn it down a bit so we don't get distortion on the master channel. And now let's create an audio track and call this rumble bass. And don't worry, we will be working on the kick as well. I'm just going to color that green, so that's my kick color, and I'm going to color that yellow because that's my bass color. And what we're going to do is open up this routing and then select input from the kick, and then we're going to use that kick to create the rumble bass. So the first thing we're going to do once we've done that is press in so we can hear it. And now we've got this kick doubled up. So we're going to now add a delay. You can do this with a reverb, but as I've shown before, this is a bit more of a rhythmic way to do it. So let's put that to 100% dry, sorry, 100% wet. Cool. Now let's slap some kind of big fat distortion unit on there. I really like this amp personally. This is going to sound really industrial. Obviously too much. So let's get that EQ on there afterwards, take out some of those higher frequencies. Got lots to get through today. Lovely. Now we're going to cut the bass a little bit where the kick fundamental is as well, just so the kick can breathe through a bit more, which is about probably 50 hertz, I think. I can tell that because you can see that's where this fundamental frequency is, so we can just duck that a bit. Cool, so that's our rumble. Next thing, let's work on that kick a bit. I think it needs to be a little bit, okay, this is a cool trick. Let's add a delay on that kick, or a reverb, and we're going to add a little bit of pre-delay on it, which is a bit weird using reverb on a kick, but bear with me. Take out the high end. So check out the difference. It just gives it a bit more presence. Lovely. Get that rumble in there, baby. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take the sidechain trigger, which I've created before, and I'm going to just slap that into a sidechain compressor so we can duck that rumble bass as the kick plays. So let's do that as well. Open that, sidechain, input. So you can hear that's ducking the rumble bass when the kick's playing. So without the kick playing, it doesn't do anything because of course it's taking the signal from the kick. Just trust me on this, all right? Trust me. And the reason we're taking the sidechain input from this specific sidechain channel, which is a very short sample, a rim shot, is because this kick is quite long. So the duck on the rumble bass is too long if we use that. Cool. Okay, on to the next thing. 303 bass. Got to have a bit of 303, baby. It's techno after all. So we're going to create this from scratch, and we're going to use the analog in Ableton. And I'm just going to like draw in a random pattern. Well, like a really basic pattern. So let's do it. Okay, it sounds like that rumbles in about B. So let's make that the key of our track. Minor, obviously, is techno. Let's zoom in a bit, and we're going to shape this sound in a second. This is going to be our 303 bass. It's going to be super simple. I'll make this loop shorter, actually. That's a bit cray-cray. That's a bit cray twins, that. Okay. So next thing we need to do is get the amplitude envelope correct, and we want it to be really short and kind of plucky. So let's take the sustain right down, the decay right, and the release right down, and let's just shape this bad boy a bit. Now we're going to shape the envelope of the filter. So I've just selected that, and we're going to do the same here. And take the filter frequency down. Turn the resonance up. I used to have a band called Resonance, actually. Cool. Actually, let's just make sure this is in mono, because the TB303 by Roland is in fact a mono synth, and that's what we're trying to replicate. Right, let's actually take out the first one of each beat so the kick can... This is kind of like doing sidechain compression from the kick, but, you know, it's just not. There. Now let's beef up this bad boy with a bit of distortion, and we're going to use overdrive for this. Yeah, that's 303, baby, all over the place. Now we're going to widen this up using the Haas effect, and the way that we can do that is by downloading all of the samples below this video and subscribing to this channel. And then you do this. Okay, right, so let's get a delay unit, simple, and choose ping pong, turn off sync, get the time right down. And you have to test this in mono. And the way I do that on the master channel, I've got this utility plugin, and I've just got a shortcut for testing it in mono, because that can happen if you're using the Haas effect. Let's what's it called? Unlink them. So if you find in mono which settings work best, it delays this mono signal and then pans it out left and right, because we've got it in ping pong mode, which gives it stereo width when we turn the whole track back to stereo in a couple of seconds. That sounds pretty cool. We've got some clipping here, so I'm just going to turn down the initial volume. Now let's turn it back to stereo. Oh yeah, lovely and wide. That's what it was before. Nice. Job done. Now we are going to look at these auxiliary channels. We've got a room reverb and a hall reverb and a bass reverb, which is pretty much like the room reverb. I don't know if we're going to use that. But we're now going to add a little bit of that room reverb to the 303. Let's tweak the decay on that reverb. Just to give it some more width, we will copy and paste this sidechain compressor. Let's call it sidechain comp, and just copy it, paste it on that 303. Nice. Next thing we are going to do is find a bit of a... Let's do the percussion next. So techno is kind of stripped back percussion. We don't have like claps and things like that. So we're just going to first find a very tasty open hat. But we're going to... Uh-oh, door. Give me a second. I've got to get the door. back, baby. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, percussion, that's right. So let's get a hi-hat, except we're going to make one from a shaker. So if we drag a shaker in, what we're going to do is just cut off the front part of it, so it's got a bit more of an attack. Put one in every other beat. Turn those drums down. Da, 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 da. Now, if you look at this in the drum rack, if you press this button here and then R, you can see I've actually created a return chain and assigned them to the my global reverbs. So then you can close that up again. And now I can add a little bit of reverb to that shaker. Okay, now let's get some ride cymbals. Ridey, 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 where are you? We will go probably cymbals ride, lovely. So let's just turn this to sustain right down, because we want this to be a really short ride cymbal. So let's just kind of get some 16ths in there. Like so. Let's just turn off those notifications. Nice. Cool, now we're going to get a big fat ride cymbal. Like that. You know, like a proper ride cymbal. And we will be going into how to use this in terms of arrangement a bit later to add more energy. If you're liking it so far, give me a hell yeah or an amen, brother, because you knows I love it. And then let's crack on. Now, let's do it the same as those shakers. Add some reverb. I'm going to show you what you can do now to make this kick and bass even bigger. Let's call it kick and bass. Make it red. And we are going to use the drum bus that comes with Ableton. Like so. And we're just going to feed a little bit of it on. So this is off. Nah, rubbish, mate. That's like fat free. This is like full fat. Nice. Now let's get those Adam Beyer style chords in. So this is all about building the tension pretty much over the whole track. And I'm going to show you a very cool trick here. So what we're going to do is do some resampling. So the first thing I'm going to do is work out what the chords should be. I'm going to choose 2 chords for the entire track, and then I'm going to technoify them. So let's get a very simple synth that comes with Ableton, because I want to do it all in Ableton, just operator, easy peasy. And now let's first let's make a cool sound. So if we go square, no, we'll go saw, and then just muck around with this wavetable. Just to give it an interesting sound. Cool, so what we're going to base the main chord on is just the root chord, except the minor version, so that would be B minor. Don't worry, it sounds rubbish at the moment, but it's fine, trust me. I'm a doctor, I'm not a doctor. Doctor of Techno, that is. So I'm going to build up this. And in fact, this is going to be the easiest way to do it. If we shift this to A, we can just add in all of the white notes from A to A. And this is my template technique. And don't worry, we can kind of transpose it back to B afterwards. But if we press fold now, you'll see it's just the notes that are in A minor natural. And we want to build up some kind of epic chord. So we'll turn off everything else, otherwise it'll sound out of tune. Zoom out a bit, lift that up. Lift me up, Buttercup. Now I've got all of these different, I've got 3 basically octaves of A minor natural. So if I press fold, boom. Now let's build these chords up just by missing every other note. So you can hear we've built up some wacky chord there, which is fine. So what we're going to do once we've done that, in fact, we don't have enough voices. So let's go to voices, make it like 12. And I'm just experimenting a bit, so it sounds pretty like hardcore at the moment. So this is what we're going to do. We're actually going to, well, first let's transpose it back to B. So we grab them all and find where the A was. So A is there. So we just need to move it 2 semitones up. So I've grabbed them all and I just press up twice on the cursor. And now that's in B minor. So it's going to fit in with the rest of the track. As much as that horrific chord can fit in with anything. It's like an ugly duckling at the moment. Right, so this is what we're going to do. We are going to duplicate this and we're going to pick another sound and we're going to just take out some of the notes in one of them, like this. And then we're going to take out the other notes in, like, more or less the other notes. Some of them will kind of cross over, I'm sure. And now let's choose a different sound. For this one, we are going to use, what shall we use? And don't worry, we are going to make the sounds actually better. We are going to use a simpler. And we're just going to load in a random sample. That has to be in the right key, of course. So synth. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because they probably aren't in, like, sampled at the correct note. So we're just going to go into sounds. Then we're going to go into piano and keys. And find something that's quite long. I quite like that. So if we pick this one. Now this is what we're going to do. Let's create an audio channel. Select input from whatever this one's called. Let's call it chord 2. Then input chord 2. And now we're going to resample it. So if we press this button, and then solo this. Oh, you don't actually have to solo that. We're going to do this. Check it out. So you can see this has actually sampled this chord. So we're going to just delete that and we're just going to work with this and we're going to loop just one part of it just to make things get hypnotic in a techno style. Add some hall reverb. Get that pump compressor on there. Now this weird one that sounds like computer games, traffic lights, or something weird. We are going to stick one of these EQ8s on and just choose one of these formant defaults. Just have an experiment, find something that sounds interesting. So that's pretty cool. Kind of sounds like an organ. And then we're going to take out some of the low frequencies. Let's put a pump compressor on there. Now let's listen where we are at the moment. Nice. Now let's make that a bit more textural by using some audio effects. So we're going to use this. It is called the erosion. Just to add some more grit. And we're going to try that on this one as well. Let's add a phaser on there. Pan them a bit, add some reverb. Make sure we can EQ this lush pad a bit. And then that's our pad. So we're going to put them together, call them pad. So they're grouped, we can process them together. Let's color them in a nice synth color, which, as we know, nature made cyan. There we go. And now we can add a filter over the whole thing. Whoops, an auto filter. To introduce that to the track, like so. And you might hear places to clear it up a bit. Cool. Next thing we are going to do is, according to this, it would be a vocal. So I'm just going to use a random vocal from my hard drive from days of old and find something that's in a similar key. Now, when this chord changes, it's going to, we're going to change the chord as well. So don't worry about that. So we will go into my samples. We will find some vocals. That will be here. Let's use something from Catherine. Yeah, we're going to use that because we can actually just change, we can transpose it if needs be. But I think this is actually sung in B anyway, B minor. And we're going to make this hypnotic. Yeah, okay, here we go. So first thing we're going to do is make a little loop out of it to get even more hypnotic. So that would be Warp It, Complex Pro, and then let's just kind of get a good rhythm out. Here we go. So we're just going to warp it. And that's going to be our little loop. So we will use the rest of it in the break, don't worry. But this is going to be our little techno loop. And then we can process it a bit. Duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. And now let's mess it up a bit with some, well, let's filter it down for sure. Just take out some of the harsh frequencies. And we're going to stick one of those pump compressors on there, get it bouncing a bit. Put less of it on though. And then we are going to add an auto filter so it can open up over time. Kind of like the pad. So let's do some of this arrangement quickly. Right, let's just copy it a few times and then we're going to add these elements as we go. Make sure we've got the sidechain copied over as well. And the kick, of course, you've got to have a kick. Copy that bad boy. So let's add some arrangement. We're not going to start off with the ride cymbal. And we're going to fade this pad in over time. Same with this vocal. Might peak up the resonance a bit. Let's add some distortion to that actually, just to make it a bit more interesting. Let's use erosion. I like that. And then we're going to change this chord to basically the major version, just so it's like a break and you're like, ah, nice. So all I've done is change the third from a minor up one semitone to a major. Let's see if this minor still works underneath to make it a bit more kind of, you don't want it too happy, it's techno. It's a bit too harsh there. This needs to loop as well actually, to give it that hypnotic feeling. And we might add some more effects to that too, to make it a bit less kind of gritty. This is the trouble with doing it as you kind of go, you know, it's just making it up as I go along and you have to suffer. In fact, I might just add the reverb in the group so it gets filtered as well, because if you add the reverb before it hits the group filter, then the reverb's going to the auxiliary channel without being filtered. So let's just tweak that a bit. That's better. Like, that's much better. Let's fatten this up with a drum bus. And then the chord change here. Let's get a different sound in for there to augment it. So let's call that major chord sound. And what I'm going to do for this is another way to add variation and interest to techno, is that I'm actually going to just find a random chord sample that's in a major, and you can hear if it's in a major because it sounds kind of happy. So if we go to keys and organ, that's a major. It's a seventh as well, but what we can do is we can just choose a little bit from it again, like we did with the other one. That's cool. And then we can just copy that, paste it there, make sure it's the same length as our loop, which is there. And we need to now transpose it using warp to make sure it is the correct key now, because it's just a random major chord, so we need to bring it up and down until it matches this major chord. So that should work. Maybe it is a minor chord. No, I need... I just want like a basic major chord. Where would I find that? Key loops. Yeah, the third one in that is a major chord. So I'll grab that piano. And this one is definitely major. So we're just going to loop that little bit and bring it up to be in the same key. You can't sing a chord. I tried that once. Didn't end well. So just going to do it by ear. There we go. And I'm going to consolidate that, reverse it to make it sound weird. And then that's going to be our secondary chord layer for that break. We could actually use the major from that for this other bit. That sounds too harsh. So I'm going to put another EQ on there and try and get rid of some of that harshness. That sounds a bit more cultured. Cool. So let's find the major chord that this piano kind of loop started in, which, oh no, that's right, I consolidated it. Right, let's get this vocal filtered. So we start down here. Bit of compression. Just to take in the bigger beat. We need this to be epicer, epicer. And then you can go back into the minor afterwards. So that's like the break. Definitely needs some mixing. Now the last thing we're going to do is add a bit of yeah, and I'll show you, we can go back to that part of the arrangement. So then and then let's take out the pad here. And the last thing we're going to do is find some kind of nice snare to do little intros and whatnot. So let's go to snares. It's all about finding the right sounds as well. That one's quite cool. Just a little intro, nothing too cheesy because it's techno. Something like that. Okay, bit of arrangement now. Let's automate that 303 a bit. Something like that. I really hope you've enjoyed this techno tutorial, guys. Again, don't forget to check out my Charlotte de Witte tutorial by clicking below, as that is the biggest video I've had on my channel. Until next time, stay safe, cheers, and happy producing.